The little roadside diner was nearly empty when Daniel Carter walked in holding his 6-year-old daughter Emma's hand. Since losing his wife 2 years earlier, every day had become a struggle between grief and survival. Daniel worked as a mechanic during the day and delivered food at night, doing everything he could to give Emma a happy childhood. That afternoon, he only had enough money for 2 bowls of soup and a shared slice of pie. As they settled into a corner booth, Daniel noticed a woman in a wheelchair sitting alone near the window. She wore elegant clothes, but her eyes revealed loneliness that money could never hide. Across from her sat an arrogant man who constantly checked his expensive watch, barely listening as she tried to speak. Instead of treating her with respect, he seemed annoyed by her disability, making impatient gestures whenever she needed a little extra time. Emma quietly whispered that the lady looked sad. Daniel smiled gently and told his daughter that kindness costs nothing. A few moments later, the wealthy man abruptly stood up, tossed a few bills onto the table, and walked out without even saying goodbye. Several customers watched in uncomfortable silence as the woman lowered her head, trying to hide the tears forming in her eyes. Without hesitation, Daniel carried his and Emma's meals to her table. He politely asked if she would mind some company, because no one should have to eat alone after such a painful experience. She looked surprised but nodded with a grateful smile. Her name was Victoria Hayes. She explained that she had agreed to the blind date after months of encouragement from friends, who believed she deserved another chance at happiness. A car accident years earlier had left her unable to walk, but it had never taken away her determination. She had spent the last decade building one of the country's most successful medical technology companies, creating mobility devices that helped thousands of people with disabilities live independently. Yet despite all her achievements, finding someone who saw her beyond the wheelchair remained painfully difficult. Daniel never asked about her wealth. Instead, he spoke about Emma's love of drawing, the old garage he struggled to keep open, and the lessons his late wife had taught him about treating everyone with compassion. For the first time that day, Victoria laughed freely. Emma even showed her colorful sketches, making Victoria smile even wider. When it was time to leave, Victoria quietly thanked Daniel for restoring her faith that genuine kindness still existed. They exchanged phone numbers, expecting nothing more than friendship. A week later, Daniel received an invitation to visit Victoria's company. Confused, he arrived wearing his cleanest work clothes, assuming she simply wanted to thank him again. Instead, Victoria gave him a tour of the massive headquarters and introduced him to engineers developing adaptive vehicles for people with disabilities. She had remembered Daniel mentioning how difficult it was to repair specialized mobility equipment because replacement parts were expensive and qualified mechanics were rare. Victoria offered him the opportunity to lead a new nationwide service division that would repair adaptive vehicles at affordable prices, especially for low-income families. Daniel hesitated. He had never managed a large operation before. Victoria smiled and explained that technical skills could be taught, but compassion could not. She believed his character made him the perfect person for the role. Within a year, Daniel transformed the program into one of the company's greatest successes. Hundreds of disabled veterans, accident survivors, and elderly people finally had access to affordable repairs that kept their independence alive. His small garage expanded into a training center where young mechanics learned both technical skills and the importance of treating every customer with dignity. Emma often visited the headquarters after school, where Victoria became like family. The lonely billionaire who once feared she would spend her life surrounded only by business partners discovered something priceless, a home filled with laughter, friendship, and unconditional love. Looking back, Daniel realized that he had never truly rescued Victoria from a bad blind date. He had simply offered kindness when someone needed it most. In return, Victoria gave him an opportunity that transformed his future, secured his daughter's dreams, and reminded both of them that the greatest fortunes are not measured by money, but by the lives we choose to lift when the world has turned its back on them.